All right, welcome to another episode of Key Biscayne Stories. Key Rats, Key Biscayners. This is where neighbors meet neighbors. Today, we're talking about youth lead change. We have Patricia Woodson, the founder of Youth Lead Change. If some of you may remember, she was a Key Biscayne Village Council member for 2 terms. She was big around the Village Green, getting that Village Green started, the playground, and the community center. She had a lot of input there. And we also have Josh Morin, who is here visiting Key Biscayne right now, lives in DC, and he is a program coordinator, curriculum designer, and ecologist, and he is contributing heavily to Youth Lead Change. So welcome, guys. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us and telling us your story here to Key Biscayners.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So, Pat, you are the founder of Youth Lead Change. Tell us, what is Youth Lead Change?
Youth Lead Change is a program for high school students who have either stepped into leadership already or are wanting to give them basic skills and some not so basic skills in understanding change making. And we started about 8 months before COVID hit. And we were holding in-person workshops, teaching the tools for social entrepreneurship and some design thinking. And it's conceived really from the beginning as a combination of courses, workshops, and mentorship, working to connect students with mentors who are aligned with the projects or the issues that they're interested in. When COVID hit, interviewing the students that we were working with, we said, okay, things are really different right now. What do you need? A lot of their on-the-ground projects were put on hold, and we got the message loud and clear that what they wanted was social, emotional, mental, and emotional health. So by a great stroke of luck, a relatively new friend of mine, Dr. Megan Poe, famous as kind of NYU's favorite professor for her course called Love there, which kind of like the happiness course at Harvard was the one that if you don't sign up in the first 2 minutes, forget it. So Dr. Poe designed and initiated this course that we are now running again called Thriving Through Challenge, which is, we've kind of tagged a bit as leadership from the inside out. So this is a direction that is kind of the gift of COVID for Youth Lead Change. So in addition to maybe more hard skills, this is now the inner work, because of course how we are with ourselves defines how we can be with others. So learning, again, especially through this isolation of COVID, new ways of being with ourselves in this kind of additional pressure cooker that already extraordinarily stressed, increasingly anxious adolescents have been living. Now with the additional uncertainty and additional isolation and pressures of COVID, this has really been a beautiful process now that we're in our 2nd year of offering, to really give them the skills to work with themselves, and then to use skills that Josh is teaching as well to guide others and embed in group processes for whatever project they're working on, so that they're creating a healthy, collaborative, empowering environment with whatever group they're working in. We have a new partner as well. Youth Lead Change started in partnership with Peace First, which is an international organization teaching skills for peace building. We since then have acquired 2 different partners. Rotary has launched an incredible platform, asynchronous course followed by mentorship called Youth, Peace, and Action. And we have a collaboration platform organized around the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals behind me called HANX. And HANX, I'm a co-founder of HANX as well. Outward Bound is our shared foundation. Youth Lead Change has a relationship with North Carolina Outward Bound. Students pre-COVID were, and once more, we're looking forward to them enjoying scholarships for the wilderness courses, for North Carolina Outward Bound's wilderness courses, in recognition of their impact in the community. And so Outward Bound is really the foundation for the values and the community of HANX. So increasingly, we are dovetailing with HANX and using the themes of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to orient, educate, and inspire action in the world.
Wow, that's awesome. Looks like kids working with Youth Lead Change have an opportunity to learn a lot about a lot. You know, I wanted to touch base on a couple of things that you mentioned, and I wanted to get Josh's input on, since he's the program coordinator, you know, for Youth Lead Change. You mentioned that the program that you guys are running now is Thriving Through Challenge, right? And it talks about a lot of inner work. And Josh, pre-podcast, we were talking about some of the mindset work you've been doing. And from my business background, I can see how emotional intelligence is important, how to handle stress, how to handle a workload that could be too much, you know, and we don't get taught that. We don't get taught that as youth, as in college or even in high school, anywhere. We don't get taught how to handle those inner things to be able to thrive and succeed. Josh, can you share with us a couple of those things?
Yeah, I mean, listening to you talk, it's this idea of, and especially engaging young people, it's this idea of being within some structure, being within, you know, a school curriculum or a college curriculum, or being in your work life, right? And sort of the stressors that happen in that sort of arena space, that performance space, right? And a tool that I've always used is being able to sort of separate out the different spheres of our lives, take a snapshot of, you know, how healthy each of them are, and making sure that those arena spaces have similarly healthy and robust sanctuary spaces where that performance, that expectation can come off, where we can reset our nervous system with some of the techniques we find in emotional intelligence, like taking a deep breath, a complete breath. So we teach some of those tools, right, to help your sanctuary space be a place where you can rest, digest, recharge. And then the third space, the final space, which I was actually brought down this weekend to teach a tool called Counsel. And this other third space is called a container space. You know, it's a space for actually now actively reflecting on the experiences that are taking place in our arenas, in our work life, school life, and in our sanctuary or reset relaxation spaces. And what I found with teaching this is that we have severely underdeveloped our container spaces, our spaces of self-reflection and then connection to others. So to zoom right in on one tool, the tool we're directly engaging students with here on the Key is called Counsel. It's a storytelling practice, very simple, you know, sort of ancient roots for all of us humans, you know, sitting in a circle, whether that's around a fire or around a beautiful center you've created. There's a talking stick, there's a prompt, there's an opening and a closing. And when you have that space to speak, it's about reflecting and seeing what comes out. So I think that is a tool that we don't actively find ourselves engaging with, I think, seriously enough, you know, as often as we should. Spaces where our memories, our experiences can come into focus in new ways, and where in a group environment, by listening with, you know, an open heart to others, we can really sort of come back to core, come back to essence, and be able to live our values, right? When we are actively speaking those values and finding that purpose together, I think what people will find is you go back into the work environment, go back into the arena after you've had an amazing integration in your container space. And a lot of what you thought was, the extra stuff you have to get done, a lot of that actually won't necessarily line up. And you'll realize, you're doing things that don't matter. And being able to take that off your plate and know very clearly, what your purpose is, how you serve, is a great tool to sort of cut through and even minimize distraction. So yeah, happy to talk more on any of that if you have any questions.
Well, that's great. So right now, to see if I fully understand the concept, Youth Leads Change has a course, right, which is called Thriving Through Challenge, that takes kids through these 3 steps that you just mentioned, right? Correct?
Yes. Yeah. So the course we're doing now is sort of to back up to talk about my own experience. I am literally the product of these programs. When I was 18, I went to a youth leadership program camp. I went back and started serving as a fellow in curriculum there as well. I've done emotional intelligence courses, was involved in a mindfulness initiative at college. And the program we are designing right now is essentially me going through all of those and finding the concrete practical exercises, those tools, minimizing all of the story and talking about these curriculums and giving students over Zoom direct experiences with how does it feel to apply this technique? How does it feel to, come into my body with that complete breath, to journal. So this whole grab bag, we call maybe the sandbox, the sandbox space to play around with these practices of well-being. And that's a really broad introductory course to these techniques. And then, the storytelling space council that I mentioned is something that we just did this weekend in person. So it really requires that circle, that in presence, human presence circle. And yeah, exactly. Sort of following up and really engaging with students more personally after we've tried out some of these tools as well.
I think it's great what you guys are doing. In business school, they don't teach you how to deal with the inner work, right? The inner stresses that come with doing business, executing the project, doing what you're told in the office. It's another thing for entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, when they're trying to create from scratch. There's a lot of stresses that come to that. As an entrepreneur myself, I can definitely identify. Pat, I have a couple of questions regarding some of the things you mentioned before. You mentioned social entrepreneurship and you mentioned design thinking. Can you describe what those are? I'm familiar with the concept of social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship is when you apply regular business skills and tools to address or improve social or environmental related issues. Can you describe for us design thinking and what that means? Please, I think it'll be very important for us to know.
Design thinking is an approach to mapping out around an issue in a 360-degree kind of way, to understand the impacts and who would be impacted, the roots of issues, and then to come up with perhaps a series of possible solutions and test them out. And based on how they test out, then you refine and reshape and experiment until you get something that, that seems to really have a measurable impact.
Okay.
Social entrepreneurs, really, it's a very broad term. I've had a wonderful collaborator, Professor Eduardo Balrezo, who is at the Watson Institute at Lynn University. He and I did a program embedded in Palmer Trinity, where we really went through a full curriculum for social entrepreneurship with business plan skills, with design thinking skills, and really just giving students the tools to discover what their individual passions and talents could be that they can apply to issues they care about. In the end, there was a business plan challenge and funding provided for the winners. One student actually won the Miami Herald Youth Business Plan Challenge Award. So we may go into that full kind of curriculum again as we emerge from COVID, when it's more possible to do things out in the world. Right now, we're really focusing on learning a lot of the inner skills, and we are going to have Eduardo Valrezo has offered to teach a course in human design, which is kind of grown out of design thinking and systems thinking, much more, I think, inclusive approach. Also, we're going to be introducing more hard skills, starting actually in about a month. Mayor, Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava has offered to create and participate in with the students a civic engagement workshop series. We're also planning to have, we're ramping up very soon to offer our summer internship, which is again centered around the Sustainable Development Goals. And it's going to lead to a program in the fall called 17 Rooms, which is a Brookings Institution program supported by them for local, well, for communities. And I think this is going to be a Miami-Dade scope event to learn about the goals in a conference style, and also hear from the local organizations that are making an impact in those areas, and the young people as well who are engaged in work on those areas.
You have to let us know whenever you launch the internship or whenever you're ready. We should do a mini show on what that is, so we can let parents know in the key.
Yeah, we're going to, for the summer internship, that will be an SDG ambassador role for the fall event.
Got it. So Pat, tell us why did you start Youth Lead Change?
I really kind of see it as a process toward creating it that started when I had a baby 8 years ago. And Hurricane Andrew had devastated the Key. And I've been following, I guess, my daughter's generation and inquiring, you know, what do they need since then? So it started with playground, parks, community center, then programs for kids, for young people. I was the liaison for quite a number of years for the Youth Council. We've been experimenting with how to empower and give young people in our community a voice in a meaningful way that honors them and respects their intelligence and their skills and their unique vision of our community and the world. And so ultimately, really just creating a platform that offers them skills, that offers them insights, that supports them mentally, emotionally, and intellectually in evolving and implementing their own visions and mentoring them through that so that they really have agency. So that's, I guess that's where we've landed. I've been growing up with them. They've been teaching me.
Oh, I can't imagine. I think that what you guys are doing is great. I mean, mentorship is such an important part of education. And we know, and you know, Pat, you've been involved in education for a long time as well. Education is not enough. But what what we offer, universities, colleges, the public sector, the private organizations, is not enough. So organizations like yours that provide this perspective, different ideas, different ways of thinking, and mentorship are so important and valuable for the community. So thank you. So Josh, can you expand on the name? Youth lead change. The youth is leading the change.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the name of the program. It's also sort of a slogan of sorts, and it sort of is a statement of our values, right? What we believe. But I think we have to sort of take a shift from saying the young people are going to inherit the world. It's up to them to solve the problems, versus what is a model of really empowering younger people who are facing a series of challenges, or being told and bombarded. There's these big wicked problems in the world that you're going to have to solve, and obviously that's sort of a dead end. So youth lead change is really about, I think, making sort of this bridge and dialogue between the generations. Something I really focused on is intergenerational dialogue, and that is, how do we be able to set up young people with the key insights? Here are some of the things that still have work to go. Here's where we have to minimize sort of the dissonance between what we know is true and the way things are done. And we are relying on your creativity and on your perspective and on your energy and passion to be able to bring your voice to these things. And I think something sort of culture-wide that might be missing is this idea of having real elders, like bestowing elderhood, which is something that can take place in these circles I was describing, these council circles, that older generations can share their stories, can share their wisdom, and young people can feel the continuity and the support of the community they're in, knowing that there's this great resource of insight, and also at the same time being told that all of their creativity, all of their voice is also necessary. So opening that space for communication, and then opening that space for actual action and change. It requires trusting young people when they tell you, I'm hurting or I'm anxious, giving them resources to help with that, to bring to baseline, but then also giving them all the treasures that we have in our community and that we have across generations, and saying, you have a place here and your voice matters, and we need you to help us see things more clearly now. And sort of the alignment to bridge these generations and to bridge the dialogue, and to sort of find common ground is really the first step. So teaching those skills of story, those inner work skills, and then hopefully connecting across generations is one way that youth will be able to grow up and make the changes that are necessary.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. So one of the things we like to do here in Key Biscayne Stories is talk a little bit about the key and our experiences. So Josh, you are new. You're visiting for the first time at Key Biscayne. Thanks to Pat, she brought you down to meet the kids that you're working with. What is your first impression of Key Biscayne?
Oh my goodness. I just came from February in DC, so it's a whole nother season here. And
yeah.
Like I stepped out of like in the Wizard of Oz, you step out, everything's Technicolor. Whoa. No, I think the key is I'm really, really impressed by the village feel, like small hamlet, super friendly. And I think there's something about the way that the community has these natural boundaries, right? Where you, like, when you enter the community, you really feel it. And then just the blessing of natural resources, the blessing of beauty, and connection to the ocean and the sky is really gorgeous. So I love it here. And I think the amount of families I've seen, kids I've seen, even just driving around the golf cart, makes it seem like a really friendly, lovely place to live. So you guys are lucky.
That was great. Thank you. Thank you, Josh. Thank you for that. And Pat, can you describe for us a perfect weekend for you here in the Key?
Well, okay. Yes, it would take a whole weekend even try to enjoy all the things that I love about the Key. I enjoy sailing. I like to, actually, it's sometimes it's best to get an early start on the weekend for that. Too many boats out. And certainly going to Crandon Park, I like to go down the nature trail, down, toward Bear Cut. It feels so wild, and you wouldn't even think you're close to a city. I love to go to Dune behind the Ritz and have a drink with my friend Gino, and maybe Josh and I'll do that this afternoon.
Yes.
Nothing can beat sunset at the Cleat in Bill Bags Park. Biking around, especially in Bill Bags. And just sitting and listening to the sounds of the birds and the ocean. Having a walk with friends on the beach, one of my favorite things.
All right. Hey, Pat, Josh, thank you so much for telling us about Youth Leads Change here to all Key Biscayneers and Key Rats about what you guys are up to. Great initiative, very, very much needed in the community. So thank you both for the time that you guys are putting into this and creating Youth Lead Change.
Thank you for this time together.
Yeah, thanks so much, Alejandro.